Hello and welcome back to Scale Modelling Cafe, and welcome to another short video in some of my favourite kits that are in my collection in the cabinet that's just over there. The subject of this video is another Airfix kit, and it is this. It is the 1/72 scale Buccaneer. Now, straight away you'll be thinking, hang on a minute. Yeah, and you'd be right. This is another one of the early kits that I made when I was in Saudi, pre-YouTube and pre-decent photo setup. And obviously it's in a bit of a what if in the US Navy scheme. This is an A6 intruder scheme, and I just thought it'd be quite fun to build it in a US Navy scheme in a bit of a sort of what if, as if, you know, the A6 was a bit of a failure. So very unusually, the US Navy went out and bought a foreign aeroplane, and it was this one. Now, you may see straight away that there's a little bit of damage here, and unfortunately, when I was bringing this back from Saudi, the refueling probe snapped off, which is a real shame. So what I'm going to end up doing, I think, is I might have to buy another kit, or write off to Airfix actually, and buy that particular part, and then I need to repair it. Ironically, I did pin it at the bottom, but yeah, there we go. Right, the kit itself. The other thing, obviously, is a bit wonky. Is this? These are resin, and I might be able to just bend that back a little bit without snapping it off. It's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm going to have to straighten that out. Right, so this is in a Vietnam scheme. Hence, it's got all these bombs on. Oh, God, I've made that even worse, haven't I? Look at that pointing up like that. Ridiculous. If I can... Oh, live on air. See how flexible it is. Oh, right, I'll sort that out later. Okay, the kit itself then. The kit is lovely, but to get it into a really decent, refined, I would say, finish, it does require a lot of effort. It will go together well. You can throw it together, slap some paint on it, and I'm sure you'd be very pleased. But I wanted to elevate this up to another level. And the way I've done that is in numerous areas. So first of all, the detail. I'll start off with the cockpit. It's got a full photo etch cockpit in it from Edward. It's also got some Barracuda cast seats from Barracuda. I also, oh yes, so that's the inside. I wanted to really refine it in there, but even though I painted it grey, it's a bit of a black hole. Ooh, a little bit wobbly there, nearly dropped it. Careful, Jamie. But I think it's really worth doing, actually. It's just honey. The kit is a little bit clunky in the cockpit, if I'm honest, if I'm going to be critical. But yeah, if you're going to do it with the canopy closed, then you're absolutely fine. So that's the internal detail. Right, external detail. What have I done? I have taken a technique done by Roy Sutherland, he of Barracuda, who provided the seats for this. And what he does with these Airfix kits is he sands down the panel lines. Now, if I carefully put it down. So, Airfix's panel lines. They tend to be, not in every kit, but they tend to be a little bit on the wide shape, but they're molded in a V shape, which means if you've got the sort of, if I hold that there, round to the camera, so we've got a V shape there. Now, if we sand it down, you can see what's going to happen is the panel line is going to get narrower and it's going to get sharper. And it works. And it worked an absolute treat on here. You've got to be a bit careful, because if you go a little bit too far, obviously, they're going to become too fine. and you need to try and make it consistent across the entire model. But I think I achieved that with this model, that I'm pleased to say. The other thing I did is I added a load of rivets. Now they're really quite subtle as I'm looking at this. That sort of a whole rivet thing is a debate for another day. But by adding the rivets, it's just added that extra bit of depth to the finish. I'm not entirely sure the camera can pick up the rivets. It's very subtle on the top. Maybe if I can catch it in the light, I don't know. But it's, as I said, it just adds an extra dimension to the model. What else did I do? The other things I've done, obviously, I've done a Vietnam loadout. So I've done Mark 82s, I've done extended ones at the front, and then just normal ones at the rear. I do need to fix out. I'll get a hairdryer on those and fix those out. The other thing I've done is I've added a remove before flight set for it. So intakes and exhausts, they're photo etch. Really fiddly, and also all the knacker ducts underneath as well. And I can't remember if they were photo etch or I think they were photo etch actually. I think it's all the Edward stuff. Yeah, I've added all those as well. And they didn't have flags with them, the real thing. So that's the kind of added bits that I've done to it. I didn't do anything with the wheelbase or any of the extra piping or anything in there, because quite frankly, it's I very rarely detail undercarriage bays, because when the airplane sat on the shelf, you're never really going to see it. And I'm not one of those for, well, at least I know it's there. Yeah, no, not for me. Putting the airframe together though, as I said before, you could throw it together and get a nice result, but I wanted that extra level of refinement. So what I ended up doing is, where the sort of tail bit grafts on and the nose grafts on and the intakes and the exhausts graft on, I put a whole load of filler over there. I used the epoxy filler from Mr. Hobby, which I absolutely adore. It's fantastic stuff. It's a little bit like milliput, I suppose. So you've got a resin and hardener, you mix it together and you put it on, but it's got like a plasticizer stuff in it, so it repels water. So you can't, not like milliput, which is kind of chalky, and you can use water to sort of ferret in. This stuff, you can't do that. You have to sand it, but the advantage is it blends in with the plastic and it scribes just like plastic, and it doesn't shrink like sprue goo or anything like that. And the way it scribes, as I said, it scribes just like the plastic underneath. So you can get very consistent scribing through it, whereas you've got the risk with something like milliput, because it's chalk based, it can chip and all that kind of stuff if you're not really careful. It's a lot more forgiving. And what I ended up doing was rescribing the panel line where the join is at the back, and the intakes and around the air brake, which I wanted closed, because if it's open, yes, you've got beautiful detail in there and you get a load with the Edward set, but I think it just spoils the lines a little bit. I never do folded wings on naval models either. I just think it looks a bit pants, if I'm honest. But that's just me. It also had, I needed a lot of sort of rescribing work around the fuel tanks, I seem to remember. And the Bombay. So it took a lot of effort to get the airframe to a level of refinement that I wanted. Sounds like I'm slagging off the kit, but I'm genuinely not. It's a wonderful kit, and I just love it to pieces. But just for me, I wanted to get it to that added level of refinement, sort out those panel lines, and just sort out those joins. So now I've got this result where it looks, all the surface detail is extremely refined, much more refined than it would have been had I just left it. And also the where all the joins are, there it's kind of homogeneous, if you like. Right, the weathering. Quite a bit of oils on this. So you'll see there on the on the wing fold, which again, which I thought was a bit of a pain in the hoop. That in the breakdown, I would much rather have it just had it spread, and you know, maybe they could offer a separate sprue or something for those who wanted it the wings folded. Oh, excuse me, tired. I've just done a hell of a lot of DIY. Building another deck outside, and I'm a bit pooped. But right, there we go. So yeah, the wing fold join is less refined. I think you can kind of get away with that, if I'm honest. And I've kind of accentuated the weathering on the top with more sort of grime and oil leaks and that kind of thing. Talking of grime and oil leaks underneath, you can see around the rear fuselage as well. I've done that. Sorry for the window in the background. The sun's just come out. But I'm really pleased with how the weathering has come out and how the oils have accentuated that grime and some of that streaking down the back end. Now, I just thought that, you know, maybe the US Navy did the same as the Royal Navy and didn't really use the internal bomb bay for the weapons. They just used it for extra fuel for those deep penetration missions, you know, those classic A6 intruder missions. That was my theory. And there we go. Sorry I haven't got any sort of high-res decent pictures. I'd have to bring it back to Saudi to take some pictures and then bring it back. Maybe I'll just buy an extra set of lights for here and bring my camera back next time and get some decent shots. But, you know, that's all maybes. There we are. That is my US Navy Buccaneer in 1/72 scale from Airfix. I suppose really I ought to go and get the 48th one now. Yeah, I'm really tempted by that. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.